Princess Varel of House Zarthos despised the smell of steel. Her palace on the moon colony of Telaris had once smelled of crystal flowers, reactor incense, and the sweet vapors of ion perfume that drifted through the royal halls. Now, every corridor reeked of polished armor, gun oil, and foreign soldiers. And the worst of them all, the human. She marched down the crystalline stairway with her long, iridescent robes dragging in agitation. Servants scattered from her path like nervous birds. "I refuse," Varel declared for the third time that morning, her silver eyes flashing. "I do not need a guardian. I am perfectly capable of defending myself." Her mother, Queen Saralia, didn't even turn from the holographic display swirling above the throne platform. A map of Telaris flickered with red zones, territories where insurgents, syndicates, and exiled nobles plotted rebellion. Cyber raids, targeted assassinations, and orbital sabotage had increased in the last cycle. This was no longer a peaceful moon. "You will accept protection," the queen replied, voice cool as starlight. "The threats grow more frequent. Our shield stations were disabled last night. The palace is not safe." "Protection, yes," Varel hissed. "But not him." As if summoned by her disdain, heavy bootsteps echoed down the hall. The doors opened with a growl of metal. Tall, broad-shouldered, wrapped in standard issue series pattern ballistic armor with an atmosphere-sealed exoskeletal frame. A white stripe marked his shoulder plate, the symbol of human veterans from the Deathworld regiments. His helmet was clutched under one arm, revealing warm brown skin, close-cropped dark hair, and eyes too calm for a soldier who'd seen war. Sergeant Orion Kane, former human combat engineer, survivor of 3 Deathworld deployments. Her unwanted guardian. He bowed, not too deeply, never subservient. Humans didn't bow like the people of Zarthos. Their gestures were smaller, yet somehow felt heavier, as if sincere. "Your Majesty," he said to the queen. Then, with clear reluctance, "Princess Varel." Varel crossed her arms. "I requested a Zarthian guardian. Someone who understands diplomacy and respect. Someone elegant, refined." Orion's brows lifted. "Not someone like me?" "You are allowed," she said, struggling to describe it. "Blunt, unpolished, and human." The queen rubbed her temples. "Varel, enough. Captain Kane comes highly recommended. He knows Deathworld tactics, skills we desperately need." "But I am not on a Deathworld," Varel muttered. Orion's gaze met hers, level. "Princess, I hope it stays that way." She turned away, feeling cornered. Humans were strange to her people. They grew on violent worlds with crushing gravity and predatory wildlife. They evolved alongside atmospheric toxins, shifting climates, and constant danger. Other species whispered that humanity survived through sheer stubbornness, and that a human's loyalty, once earned, was terrifyingly unbreakable. Varel doubted she'd earn anything from him. Not trust, not respect, and certainly not admiration. Beginning the reluctant partnership. The first days were a silent war. Orion followed her everywhere, training courts, Senate chambers, diplomatic rehearsals. His expression never changed, but Varel could feel his disapproval. When she practiced royal speeches, Orion corrected her posture from across the room without a word. When she walked into public chambers, he scanned every shadow as if threats lurked behind silk curtains. "You treat this palace as a war front," she snapped one afternoon. He didn't look at her. "My habits kept me alive." She bristled, but curiosity broke through. "How many deployments?" "4," he answered, checking a wall scanner. 3 on a Deathworld. 1 on an orbital siege platform. "And what did you learn, Sergeant?" "That I don't want to bury another friend," Orion said softly, too softly. The air between them shifted. Varel didn't apologize, but she said nothing more. The second week brought the first attack. A diplomatic transport exploded in the outer courtyard. Glass and debris rained through the hall, sending nobles scrambling. Alarms wailed. Varel stood frozen as shards of crystal fell, and Orion slammed into her, shielding her with his armored body as the shockwave burst through a window. She felt heat scorch across his backplate, heard him grunt softly, but he did not move. When the smoke cleared, he rose slowly. "Princess, are you hurt?" She looked up at him, her heart hammering far too fast.
"No.
I am unharmed." He nodded once, relief ghosting across his face before the mask returned. "My duty," he said simply. But the echo of warmth in his voice lingered. Middle, the kidnapping and the forests of Creluan. Threats escalated. 3 assassination attempts. Poison in the food processors. A hacked medical drone. Then came the night everything changed. Varel woke to darkness and the muffled whine of anti-grav restraints around her wrists. A rough voice whispered in her ear, "For the rebellion. Long live the exiled houses." They dragged her to a transport skimmer and blasted off into the wild lands of Creluan, the dense bioluminescent forest beyond the palace's shielded walls. Their leader, General Makes, eyed her with hatred. "The royal line ends tonight. Zarthos falls, and with it the monarchy." Varel steadied her voice. "You will not succeed. My mother will send." A blaster bolt screamed through the night, taking down one of the rebels. The others scattered in panic as another shot rang out, controlled, deliberate, unmistakably military precise. Orion burst from the underbrush, armor scorched, rifle braced against his shoulder. His voice boomed. "Princess down." She dropped instinctively. The firefight lit the trees with red plasma bursts. Rebels flanked Orion, but he moved like he knew danger's rhythm, ducking, rolling, firing short bursts to wound rather than kill. He reached her side, slicing her restraints with a heated blade. "I tracked the skimmer's trail," he said breathlessly. "We need to move." Mix lunged from behind, swinging a shock blade. Varel cried out a warning, but Orion reacted faster than thought, blocking the strike with his armored forearm. The blade scraped sparks across his plating. "Run," he ordered. She hesitated. Her entire life she expected obedience, not command, but something in his eyes left no room for argument. They fled beneath glowing canopies, cyan spores floating like ghosts around them. Varel stumbled over roots. Orion caught her arm without slowing. "I thought you disliked touching me," she panted. "Right now, staying alive matters more," he answered, voice sharp with urgency. Blaster fire hissed behind them. Makes was relentless. They reached a ravine glowing with molten runoff from ancient magma vents. A narrow bridge spanned the drop. Varel froze. Heights always made her knees tremble. Orion stepped onto the bridge first, extending a hand. "Princess," he said softly, "trust me." Those 2 words weighed heavier than any royal decree. She placed her hand in his. Halfway across, Mix attacked again, shouting, firing wildly. A bolt struck Orion's shoulder plate, spinning him into Varel. She nearly slipped, but his grip tightened, anchoring her. He shielded her again, absorbing another hit. The armor smoked. Varel watched in horror as he staggered, yet still stood between her and death, again and again. Her voice broke. "Orion, stop. You'll die." He smiled faintly, grim determination etched into every line of his face. "If that's the price of keeping you alive," he whispered, "I'll pay it." He charged Makes, tackling him to the ground. They wrestled dangerously close to the ravine's edge. With a final, desperate move, Orion threw Makes backward, over the cliff, into the burning depths. Silence followed. Orion collapsed to his knees, blood dripping from a cracked seam in his armor. Varel rushed to him, hands trembling. You saved me." His voice was barely audible. "I promised your mother I'd keep you safe." "No," she whispered, tears pricking her eyes. "You saved me because you chose to, because of who you are." He did not answer, but his hand briefly squeezed hers before his eyes fluttered closed. Ending a different kind of loyalty. Orion survived, though healing was difficult. Human biology reacted strangely to Zarthian medicine, and only stubbornness and relentless will pulled him through. Varel rarely left his bedside. When he finally woke, she almost smiled. Almost. "You owe me 50 credits, he rasped. "For what?" she blinked. "You told me humans are loud. I'd argue I've been pretty quiet these past days." Despite herself, she laughed, a soft, musical sound she hadn't shared in months. The Queen came to thank him formally, but Varel stopped her at the door. "Mother," she said, standing tall, "I wish Sergeant Orion Kane to remain my guardian. Not by decree, by choice." The Queen studied her daughter's face, then nodded once, approving. Later, when Varel stood beside Orion on the palace balcony, the twin suns rising over Telaris, she finally spoke the truth she'd swallowed for weeks. "I judged you wrongly," she said. "I thought you lacked refinement, but what you have is far rarer." "And what's that?" he asked quietly. "Unshakable loyalty," she replied. "A bravery born not of duty, but of heart." Orion turned to face her, expression unreadable, yet something warm flickered behind his eyes. "So," he said, voice soft, "do I still offend you, princess?" Varel clasped her hands behind her back, chin raised, not as royalty, but as someone who had learned respect. "No, Orion Kane," she answered. "I owe you my life and my trust." Wind rustled her robes as they looked out over a moon colony still scarred but alive. Danger remained. Enemies lurked. The war for Telaris was far from over. But Varel no longer feared it, because she stood beside someone forged in the harshest worlds, a human who had saved her not because she was a princess, but because she mattered to him as a person. And for the first time, she understood why other species whispered about humans with awe. Because once a human decides to protect someone, they do not stop. Not for politics. Not for status. Not even for death.